Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pod TV's number one advocate show, Timeshare Solution or Surrender, with Irene Parker, who has had many years of dealing successfully with timeshares and in a good way. Not every story is a bad story, but all too often we hear about the horror stories that happen when people get locked into a timeshare through deceptive acts that were caused by the agents. And so Irene kind of evaluates a lot of what people are going through, and she just provides awesome do it yourself solutions. There are so many exit companies out there that can be scams. You just need to be aware. And so, what this show is all about is providing knowledge and information so that you can go and get the help you need or do the things that you need to do to make yourself happy again, because not everybody needs to end up with a bad situation with timeshares. And I want to welcome Irene because we are on our 23rd show. We went to a hearing last week for timeshares, which I was just so impressed with. And it was exciting to be part of helping others. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, yes, it was your first time in court,
Mhm.
and our board president, Sheila Brushed, was with us, and it was her first time in court on timeshare. Before we bring our guests on, this show is for education purposes only. It is not meant to give legal advice as our consult your own attorney. So our
Please.
attorney producer, Nick, will be proud of us for reciting that, because I know there's Spotify or something where it's radio and they don't see our show live. Before we bring our guests on, I'm going to do a rundown of the people that attended the hearing. So Kim was
Yeah.
one, Sheila was one, her husband, my husband, and Don and me. And we also had the Yorks were there. The Yorks are lead plaintiffs in another lawsuit that has been filed, and they received a phone call and asking where they wanted to vacation. They were already Wyndham members. And they said, you don't have enough points. And Mr. Yorks is a retired pastor. He is diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Also joining us in court was his wife Carol's service dog, Jazzy. And they were not, she said, well, I can't I need to see this in writing. Well, before we send it to you, you'll have to DocuSign something. She had no idea that she had bought an additional 19,000 in points. One point, no pun intended, I'm trying to make is developers are driving people to exit companies. So she also lost $33,000 to an exit company. Taya was there. Taya was our very first Pod TV guest on February 26th of this year. She is a subclass in a lawsuit, Service Members Civil Relief Act, where a lender, if you have a high interest rate loan before entering the military, the lender is required to reduce it to 6%. She sent them 74 emails. And we also have 5 people just in the last month that are concerned about security clearance. So despite our opening that we are not attorneys, we are very happy today to have an attorney with us. And it was, if we can introduce Howard Prosnitz, he was the lead attorney on Kirchner versus Wyndham. Now, I've asked our featured guest today, if we could bring on Jeremy. Jeremy has come out of our chat box. So we're usually seeing Jeremy chatting on the side here when I'm leaning over, seeing what is Jeremy asking next. But because he's a recent Club Wyndham owner, and I've been following 12 Wyndham lawsuits filed in about 4 or 5 different states over the last 2 or 3 years. And a constant theme is manipulated inventory. Now we have one more person to add to the show today, and that is Sherida. Sheila is TARDA's board president, our 501c4 nonprofit, and Sherida is our TARDA secretary. So I'd like to start out, Sheila, let's start with you since this was the first time that you attended a court hearing, and let's just hear your thoughts about what you experienced and how you feel about it.
Well, I very much enjoyed. I was so glad to go, not knowing what court hearing would be on these, and I just feel that the judge is not aware of what a timeshare is. So it's hard for him to make a determination on these unless he does a lot of background on it or goes to one of these sales and tries to see what it's like. I know, Irene, you've had others that are either um, judges or lawyers or whatever, but that's how I felt that he just was not aware of what was happening. I did get to meet the Wyndham attorneys before we went into court, and they asked if I think Kim was with me. They asked if we were with Kirchner, and we said yes, and he said, "Well, we're the enemy." So, you know,
Well, and here they were joking about it when
yeah.
we had someone there diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We had someone with a service dog. We had and Wyndham's response to that family from the Wyndham Cares department was, "We don't care." And then we also met before court. Nancy was there from South Carolina. Her husband died, and her income dropped $1,200 a month. And when she called Wyndham Cares, she told me that they told her, "You signed a contract, bitch." So there's something is not adding up here. So Howard, the judge assigned you homework, and today you filed. He wanted some Third Circuit decisions on reliance, and it seems like we're centering on material omissions more so than misrepresentations. Is that accurate?
Right. First of all, I want to thank all of you guys for coming to the hearing, the ones that did, and the support of TARDA, because one point I've tried to consistently emphasize in all my hearings is that these cases involve real people who have been really hurt. So that sometimes class actions get a bad rap as being lawyer driven. This case is totally different. The impetus for this case comes from real people who have suffered real damage. I emphasize that in front of the 11th Circuit. It's a point I continually try to emphasize. So thank you for showing up in court. Thank you for helping convey that they're real people here. And since I'm actively involved in this litigation, I don't want to in any way comment on the hearing because it's an ongoing legal proceeding. But I will say we did file today something that's a public record showing that consumer fraud cases are indeed certified in the Third Circuit and in both district court and the appellate court, that where you have a common omission, reliance can be presumed. So, we feel we are on strong ground legally, and this is not, unfortunately, this is not going to be something that is going to be resolved overnight. I've been at this for 5 years now. Regardless of how the district court comes out in Delaware, the chances are that one side or the other will file an interlocutory appeal. So the fight goes on. But again, thank you for your support. It really means a lot.
And an interlocutory appeal, if I have that right, is an intermediate appeal?
Right. There's a particular rule for class actions under Rule 23 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure that within 14 days of a decision, either certifying or not certifying a class, a party can apply to the appellate court on an intermediate basis for reviewing the decision on certification. So, in other words, before the case goes to trial, there's an opportunity for either side to seek appellate review. And I'm confident that whatever happens in the district court, one side or the other is going to be going to the Third Circuit on this. So stay tuned, I guess, is the message.
Now, the 11th Circuit, though, if we can back up a minute, because this is, I think, crucial, is one attorney we both know called it a one-off, that the Kirchner is kind of based on the arbitration clause where they inexplicably refuse to pay the American Arbitration Association's fees. And can you just explain, and developers argue vigorously for arbitration. So they lost in 3 states in the lower courts where they still wanted the court to appoint a special arbitrator. And 2 settled. Yours went to the 11th Circuit, correct?
Just to clarify, the Kirchner case is for people without arbitration clauses. So it's the older Wyndham contracts. Then Wyndham started inserting arbitration clauses. The Bedgood case, which went up to the 11th Circuit, was for people with arbitration clauses, particularly the American Arbitration Association clause. The problem is the American Arbitration Association will not hear Wyndham arbitrations because Wyndham doesn't follow its consumer rules. So the 11th Circuit ruled that American Arbitration Association clause cannot be enforced because my clients tried and failed with the American Arbitration Association. We then filed suit in court. Wyndham then tried to move to compel arbitration. The district court agreed with us that they should be free to go ahead in court. The 11th Circuit agreed. There was a great New Jersey district court opinion where Wyndham was making the same argument, and the district court there used the word chutzpah to characterize Wyndham's position. So bottom line is people with an American Arbitration Association clause with Wyndham are free to sue in court now. They don't have to bother filing the arbitration demand.
And I have, I don't know if this is also common in when you sue someone, but it's helpful. People always post on Facebook, let's start a lawsuit. And I said, well, you can't sue. They will compel arbitration. There's been some extreme adverse rulings. There was a $5,000 dispute in which the judgment against the family, they were in their 70s, was $95,000. They were ordered to pay over $75,000 in the resort's attorney's fees. Most of the attorneys I've talked to have felt that the deck is stacked against the consumer in arbitration. Can you also, the judges paid for with taxpayer dollars, but the developers pay arbitrators $400 to $800 an hour. I describe it as a kangaroo court. Can you add anything as to why arbitration is unfair to consumers?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we haven't got that far with actually filing arbitration. So I don't know how arbitrators are going to react to these cases. All I know at this point, though, is that Wyndham's arbitration clause, even as rewritten, doesn't give people any effective avenue of relief. They've changed the clause to add jams as a possible arbitration forum. The problem with jams is they consider timeshare points to be real estate. As one judge said, you can't leave your toothbrush with your timeshare points. So because of that, JAMS wants a $2,000 filing fee, hourly expenses of $400 to $1,200 for the arbitrator. So you could easily have $10,000 of JAMS arbitration fees in a $21,000 suit. So, the bottom line is people don't have anywhere to go. That's one of the points we keep stressing. These arbitration clauses are not, they're dead ends for the consumers. The AAA won't hear the cases. JAMS wants to charge them up to, $2,000 just to file the case. So we're actually, we will be fighting. That will be part of the ongoing struggle to say that these clauses, including the JAMS clause, should not be enforced.
Well, and we want to thank you because, people think that lawyers are making millions of dollars on these things, and you only make millions of dollars if you win. And it's important to have our voices heard. And thank you for all of your efforts. It's been 5 years.
I would say I'm losing millions of dollars so far. I put in millions of dollars worth of time, but
Yeah.
And the last question I have, and by the way, the exact quote, Judge Dalton in the Orlando District Court, when I check out of a timeshare, I can't leave my toothbrush and underwear. And that's when Greenspoon Martyrs said they would appeal the decision. So they lost in court on the Military Lending Act that centers around arbitration as well. My last question, though, is you had mentioned something about an evidentiary hearing. Could you explain why that would happen and what it is? I mean, by the name.
we plan to ask for an evidentiary hearing and Kirchner to have the opportunity to present witnesses. The judge may or may not let us have one, but we're certainly going to ask for one. And you guys will be the first to know if we get an evidentiary hearing.
No,
And
that
do any of our guests have questions for Howard, as well as Kim, before we, I know you're a busy guy, Howard, so if you'd like to hear more about how to book at Marriott and enjoy your Marriott points, you're welcome to stay with us.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to bow out. But again, thank you so much. I mean,
Yeah.
Irene, you drove all the way from Boca Raton, so
yeah.
Well, we actually took a train. We drove to Raleigh, which was wonderful because we could meet the attorney Nick that you've been on the show with before, and Sean and Mark, and then Kim and I and my husband took a train from Raleigh to Delaware. So it was quite the courtroom experience.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough for your dedication to this cause, because it is important.
We're here.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime.
We're here for you.
I
If you need anything, reach out. We're here. Members are helping members, and that's the only way we're going to win. And I just want to make a correction. They didn't say we were the enemies. They said we're the bad guys.
Oh,
the
okay.
bad guys.
Bad guys. Okay.
And
Sorry.
we both agreed. We're like, yes, you are. We both
Yeah.
agreed. But they knew. They knew. They said we're the bad guys.
Defense counsel are personable, but I disagree with their legal arguments.
Yeah.
All right.
I do
Thanks
too. I do.
I'm going to say goodbye. Nice to see you guys.
Okay. Bye.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye, Howard. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
And everybody remembers the Aaron Brockovich movie where there was Aaron and the frumpy little attorney on the right,
Oh, yeah.
and then the suits on the left. So this was kind of like a Men in Black moment where the Wyndham's attorneys, there were about 10 of them, all looked about between 20 and 25 years old.
Young
and I shouldn't do this, but I like to lost it. I wish I could have a camera rolling. But he went on to brag, well, I have this great team here that's producing all of this stuff for me, to thank them so I can just give you the answers right away. And then he puts the book down and he turned and he turned and he turned, and the whole courtroom is quiet for and he couldn't find the answers. So don't be over arrogant.
Oh. Poor Howard.
There was
Okay, well,
I know, but he was going on and on. So, knowing that Howard is by himself, and I think that was just a little bully tactic. But don't be over arrogant, because at the end of the day, the truth will prevail. It may not prevail in court, because the court is not about the truth. Justice is not about the truth. It's about who gets through the process. I mean, it's about money now. But
all those timeshares have tons of money to pay their attorneys and teach them all this stuff. I've talked to attorneys with another big corporation. So,
yeah.
It's all about dragging it out. 5 years.
Let's turn the stage over to Jeremy. I know, Jeremy, you have had timeshares for how many years, and how many timeshares, and what you do for Destination Timeshare. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. We've owned timeshares, but we bought our first one back in 2007. And then we bought another one again in 2009. And we bought some more again in 2015, 2018. And then we bought our most recent one just last year, and that was Club Wyndham. So we own both Marriott, we own Vistana, specifically Sheraton Vacation Club, and we also own Club Wyndham. So I've owned timeshare for a long time. I avidly research and try to learn as much as I can about timeshare ownership. And back kind of wait when the pandemic started, or actually just before the pandemic, actually, I created this a YouTube channel called Destination Timeshare, where I kind of go out and I share my knowledge, what I know, tips, tricks, timeshare, like commentary about timeshare ownership, resort tours, room tours, and publish it all to a YouTube channel called Destination Timeshare. So it's all a YouTube channel about everything timeshare, from the timeshares we actually own, also to timeshare systems like Hilton Grand Vacations Club, Diamond Resorts, which is now Hilton Vacation Club, Westgate Resorts. We've kind of recently started into learning a little bit more about Westgate. So it's really a YouTube channel about anything and everything timeshare. So if I can think of a topic to talk about and create a video outline, then I record a video and I go ahead and publish it.
Well, and you can, of course, join your Facebook group for free. And then you have a nominal $4.95, is it? And what does that provide?
Yes, we have a Facebook group. We have a couple Facebook groups. One is kind of primarily geared towards Westin, Sheraton, which is Vistana, and Marriott timeshare ownership. We also have one for Interval International, what we call Tips for Trips. So it's kind of learning about and understanding how Interval International works, because I think that's truly where the most benefit, I think, can come from timeshare ownership. And then I also have kind of just something on our YouTube channel that's YouTube calls it channel memberships. People can sign up just for kind of bonus content, stuff like that. They can kind of see behind the scenes kind of stuff. It's completely 100% voluntary. And then I also do provide, or I do sell an online course where people can learn everything pretty much that I know about Marriott Vacation Club timeshare ownership. They can sign up for this course, and kind of by my what I call a brain dump. Everything I know about Marriott, I've put it all into that course, over 100 different lessons. So if somebody doesn't quite understand, or they want to better understand the program, that's something that they can take advantage of.
Yes, and when I briefly
I'm sorry
worked
about
in
that.
resale,
I'm having major technical difficulties here. I want to put you back in the center. I'll get that. But anyway, I do have a question though for you. Is there something that people are doing wrong, or the sales agents are doing wrong, for so many people to not be as happy as you with their timeshares? Because you seem to figure out the niche. What do you think is the biggest misconception people are buying? What do you think is the biggest misconception?
So I think the biggest misconception happening in a timeshare sales presentation is that it's just like booking a hotel, right? They say you just go online whenever you want, find what you want to book, go ahead and reserve it. And that isn't always the case, right? I mean, obviously people have trouble finding availability. Probably the number one complaint about timeshare. And a lot of it, I mean, there's challenges even when inventory first gets released, right? A lot of these timeshare companies, they say, okay, we release availability, like Club Wyndham, 13 months in advance, you can make a reservation at your home resort, right? So wherever you own, if you own Club Wyndham Access, it's at any of the resorts that are part of Club Wyndham Access. So from 13, I believe, to 10 months out, you have that kind of priority booking window at your home resort. And then at 10 months out, it becomes available to everybody else. But they sell this kind of premise that you can just go online whenever you want. And a lot of people aren't used to planning that far in advance, right? So they go online 6 months, 4 months, 3 weeks out. And by that time, the inventory is already mostly booked up, or in a lot of cases, the developer has kind of scooped up that inventory, because at certain time periods, like at Marriott, 75 days prior to check-in, Marriott gets kind of exclusive rights to anything that's not reserved anymore, right? They don't have to pay anything for it necessarily. They can just take that and reserve it. So I think the biggest issue is really, really just selling that it's availability is easy, and then not providing the tools, the resources, the information for owners to understand the product better, right? Owners are pretty much on their own. They really don't, and they tell you, well, hey, if you want to learn more, come back in for another sales presentation. We'll tell you all about it. And then they just proceed to sell you more points, which in most cases you don't need, right?
Well,
So I think
Jeremy,
the problem is the constant upsell.
you don't go into the presentations, do you?
Oh, I've been to over 70 of them.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay. And you just tell them no.
Exactly. I've not bought a timeshare at a single presentation. I'm kind of surprised they still invite me, because they still give me the $100 or $200, whatever it is, however many points to go to all these presentations. We've been to over 70 of them, and I just tell them no. Yep.
Well, did you buy your timeshares? Did you buy your timeshares on the secondary market?
Yes, we bought them all on the secondary market.
Yes. Okay.
Wow.
And then
we paid little to nothing for them. I think the most expensive one we bought was the one from 2007. That one cost us about $7,000 because it was kind of before the market crash, right, of real estate, and now it's probably only worth about $1,000 or $2,000. So if I was to turn around and sell it, but yeah, I mean, at that time it was selling for like $20,000 if I bought it direct from Marriott, and I bought it for about $7,000.
Okay, and we have Sherida with us today. She's works in Marriott resales and rentals with a mutual friend of ours. And so Sherida, can you just tell us how you feel having now? I think we both got real estate licensed in October. You maybe a couple weeks after me. What has been your experience? And also, there's Red Week and there's Tug that's kind of a do-it-yourselfer. I've always been afraid to rent through them, so I rent through Koala because they vet the place where you're going to stay. And you work in both rentals and resales, and I was baffled that of the complexity of having to juggle landlords and tenants and then and Marriott's right of first refusal, where they're gobbling up all of these great weeks that people, in a way that supports the price of the timeshare, because I've seen people bid higher than what the asking price was, knowing if they would bid what the person was asking, Marriott would just gobble it up on what we call a ROFR.
Right, right of first refusal. But as far as availability for renting, lately we've had one owner who's owned his Marriott for decades, and his daughter is trying to help him sell them with our help. And we needed to get a week in July for the person who was buying, I think it was a Monarch or Grand Ocean. And she had a 12-month window, and she had to be on the phone and call Marriott, dial a minute before their phones were running to get that week. Those weeks that when they issue them, they're gone in minutes. They're not gone in days or weeks. They're gone in minutes. And I think the people who have the 13-month window, of course, they have dibs first. But she had a heck of a time getting what we needed in July. She finally did get something after turning her laptop on and being set to go through all the steps of the owner page and be ready to click book, and also be on the phone and call them 2 minutes before the lines were open. It's almost like being at a horse race. It's very nerve-wracking. And if you can't do it that way, I don't see any chance for getting what you want, because you can't be lazy about it. You have to be on the ball as soon as they issue those weeks.
Yeah, I've been there, done that several times. And the problem with Marriott is, in Hilton Head Island isn't as bad, but some of their locations, especially Newport Coast Villas, what they did was they sold an unreasonably long platinum season. Right, so their platinum season goes from like June until November, but everybody wants those July and August weeks, right? So they kind of create this ability to oversell platinum because they have all these weeks about half the year that are considered platinum weeks, but people primarily they buy those platinum weeks because they primarily want about 6 weeks of the year or 7 weeks of the year, right? You have all these people competing for a very small number of prime platinum weeks, and it just doesn't work out well when there's just so much. And that's why, like I said, it's like a horse race because you're competing against all these other people to try and get those very few platinum weeks that are really true prime weeks. What Marriott should have done was those fall weeks should never be platinum season. That should be a different season, right? I mean, and really those summer weeks should be true platinum, and then those fall weeks should be maybe gold or something like that, right? But for the endeavor to sell weeks for as much as possible, they created this kind of unreasonably long platinum season at quite a few resorts. Even Hawaii resorts that are kind of platinum year round, there's still low season and high season, right? Summer, you have whale season, which is January, February, March. Those are kind of the true platinum weeks. And then they should have had kind of a more off season, but they sold everything as platinum, and it creates this situation where you have all these owners competing for what is few prime weeks. If you want to go to Hawaii in October, it really isn't all that hard to get a reservation, right? But if you're wanting to go to Hilton Head or Newport Coast in the middle of summer, everybody else is wanting to go too, right? So it makes it extremely difficult.
Well, and Kimberly, if you're still with us here, looks like she might have. Yeah, she's still here. I watched several of your. Oh, and we should have a disclosure that if you search destination timeshare, you might find another destination timeshare that has nothing to do with Jeremy's destination timeshare. And Sherida's comment was maybe it was a typo where they were listing 2 Westin weeks for sale. Granted, they were week 51 and 52 for $500,000. And they also had a week 5 to 8 for $500,000, which is bizarre. But of all the YouTubes I watched, because I think we have a lot of people that own at a lot of different resorts. So I believe Kimberly has uploaded a 6-minute YouTube that you did called 6 Timeshares We Would Not Buy.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheila wants to add another one.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I'm Jeremy. We've owned Timeshare for nearly 20 years, and I'm going to tell you today in this video what timeshare systems we would never touch, never purchase, never even buy resale, wouldn't even touch them with a 10-foot pole. We'll talk about it right after this. We're going to jump right in and talk about the timeshare systems that we simply would have no interest in purchasing. As I go through them, if I have some reasons specifically of why we wouldn't do it, well, I'll kind of touch on those as well. And at the end of this video, there might be a couple of long shot maybes that we'll talk about as well. All right, so first up is Capital Vacations. Don't really have any interest in this program whatsoever. The resorts are mostly independent properties, small resorts, older resorts that they've kind of gone in and started to manage and kind of added them to their points program. We don't really have a lot of interest in really staying at those types of resorts or going to those, purchasing into there, not really understanding their program all that much, but just not something that interests us. Next up happens to be Spinnaker. Spinnaker Resorts, I hear they have really terrible customer service. Don't really know that for sure myself because we're not owners and we really don't ever plan to be. Some of the resorts are also older.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like there's an issue with the feed for the video.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, that's okay. I can even go over. I have the list in front of me what I talked about.
That's what I thought we could do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing though, let me go ahead. This is a good time. Kim, we can probably just take that down unless Kim is frozen too. But Spinnaker, they do have terrible customer service. The Better Business Bureau, I believe they have a pretty low rating, and I've had people that have experienced that. And Capital Vacations, ironically, the ex-CEO or CEO
Interested
consulting
on
expert
Westgate
is.
Resorts, or probably just about any timeshare property. The rule in our house happens to be resale only. And the main problem with Westgate Resorts is there are a ton of resale restrictions. I'm actually going to do a video talking about that in the future. So if you want to see that, check this out right up here. If that video is ready, well, it'll be a link to that video. If it's not, well, there'll be a link to subscribe to the channel if you're not already, so you'll be sure not to miss that when I publish that video. But yeah, a ton of resale restrictions, also high fees for a lot of their transactions if you're a resale owner, where if you're a direct owner, well, those fees aren't as high. But I hear some of those fees are as high as $700 or more, even for just exchanging or depositing with Interval International as a resale owner. So 8 resorts. Now on to another one. That just happens to be Vacation Village. Not really sure what it is. I'd actually like to visit some of their properties. I hear they have some nice ones down in South Florida. They also have Vacation Village at Parkway in Orlando that we often see available in RCI kind of as a last call. So we'll probably check that out at some point in time. But right now, just not thinking I'm interested in buying or owning Vacation Village. Now on to the next one, and that just happens to be Hilton Vacation Club. And you actually might say Hilton earlier on, but it isn't. Grand property. The properties are really nice. I hear some of the properties aren't so much. They do have high maintenance fees, and they also do have a number of restrictions as well for resale purchasers. So just not something we're looking to get into. We don't like resale restrictions, and we don't want to pay retail prices. And now on to the last one. This one, in fact, not actually a timeshare system, but just happens to be any timeshare in Mexico. Mexico is extremely oversaturated, lots of supply, not hard to exchange into any of the resorts down there. It's just too easy of an exchange through Interval International to get into most of those resorts. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, we're not going to buy to go to Mexico because we can pretty much easily exchange in or just book our favorite resort there in Cancun, the Westin Laguna Mar. Now, as I promised from early on in the video, I have a couple of long shot maybes that we might consider if the conditions were right. First one just happens to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. In fact, they recently purchased Royal Resorts in Mexico. What's going to happen there yet? But I will provide a link to that video there talking about the agreement of Holiday Inn Club Vacations to purchase or acquire Royal Resorts. That might be maybe. I do hear there are 3 properties that you can purchase, kind of give you access to the entire program. So something that might be really, really, really long shot, maybe. Now the last one, probably not, but I want to throw out an honorable mention here, Blue Green Resorts. You know, just seeing resale way down the road, if ever. Yeah, just another property. Has some pluses, has minuses. Acquired by Hilton Grand Vacations Club. So if you want to see that, well, out up way down the road. I'd really love to hear your thoughts about what timeshare systems you would not consider ever owning. Leave those thoughts down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Really does help out these videos. I hear it helps out the rhythm to get out to more people looking to learn about. And if you want to see another video about Tom, I don't really know what this will be, but I'll put a link to one right here. So head over there, check that out next. Thanks for watching. And remember, until next time, the best destination is always a timeshare.
So, Sherida, let's start with both of you though, but Sheila, you want to go ahead
I wanted
and
to write
explain what
it
you're
in
going
front
through?
of everybody. Go ahead.
What?
Sheila,
ahead.
you want to add your 7th that should be avoided?
I think you need to put explore your resorts. If you've never been to one, they are older resorts, except for their prime one, which is in Orlando, and I think it's called Summer Bay. Some of those are older, but then they have some. They even have some that are houses, like so. But all the rest of them are older, and they are not very people friendly, and most of them have stairs to get. They don't have elevators, so
Mm.
you know they're hard to get into and hard to get out of. So,
Well, and also there's no responsible exit, correct?
no, there is not. No, there isn't. I
Yeah.
have beginnings Parkinson's, and I am trying to fight with them to get out of it. I have medical issues, and they don't want to let anybody out. But I will just keep on fighting and keep on sending stuff. And I've dealt with the DBPR for many years, and I will deal with them with this one too.
Yeah,
So,
you won't give up. I want to insert a commercial for 2 timeshares.
It's
That
sad
my
that they
husband,
have no.
yeah, it's terrible. But the 2 that do have responsible exit is there's some of us are old enough to remember the show Saint Elsewhere.
yeah.
And there's in Osage Beach, Missouri, there's a port elsewhere. And, rather than raise maintenance fees, everyone donated vacuum cleaners one year. And I called them and I said, look, I was born in St. Louis. I love going to Branson my whole life, but we moved to Florida and I don't want a vacation in Missouri anymore. And they said, yeah, we had a board meeting and you bought this 30 years ago. You paid maintenance. We're not going to hold you hostage. Let us send you a paper. They didn't charge me a penny. I left with good memories.
Yeah.
The others that have no responsible exit, Soleil Management, Tahiti Village, they will not let anyone out. Someone called me in stage 4 kidney failure. They didn't care. He's on dialysis. Great Eastern Resort that people often confuse with Vacation Village because they both have a place in Massanutten. But we have owned for 40 years at Maui Hill. And this was the first time since 1984 that my daughter couldn't, it's now in her name, and she couldn't use it. So she was able to rent it out through Koala. And I think it's horrible. The Blue Green has just taken Gestapo tactics. So I would make them a no. People that have owned with Blue Green for 20 years are receiving cease and desist letters, even though their sales agent told them to buy more points to rent to cover their maintenance fees. Wyndham is issuing cease and desist letters as well, even though their sales agents not only advise to rent, but actually provide the vehicle to rent. Sherida, you want to have a few comments to say with Vacation Village, because you never miss an opportunity. You've been writing them, I think, for 2 years every other week.
Over 2 years, I have 6 pals over there. I call them my pals.
Oh, good. I'm going to get your letters when I'm ready to get rid of that one then.
And I'm also including a lawmaker each time. And I've been writing to the various television programs that maybe they want to do a story someday. I don't know. But I write to these people every 2 weeks, reminding them of what they did to us and telling us that the sales agent had a personal friend who would get rid of our Westgate. So I got an A for the day for having all mine as part of your F list. And so, yeah, I'm writing every week and trying to be a burr in their saddle, and hopefully someday they will give me back my money.
Do you still pay your maintenance fees?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you owe them any money?
No.
No. Okay. So
we paid it off quickly because we didn't want the high interest rates.
Yeah.
But it was fraud, and I want my money back.
I would still like to see you file a complaint against Ed McGee, who is a real estate agent that was a friend of the Vacation Village sales agent that charged you $299 and listed it for $37,000 or $38,000.
Yeah. Yep.
And we can easily sell this. Yeah.
I found that most of the sales agents at Vacation Village were ex-military. They all say they're ex-military.
Yes, they all try to find a hook.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And I
Ours
wanted to ask you, Sherida, with your Marriott, do you rent them out to people, or do you help them rent them out?
They usually, our customers come to us with a booked week, and we will list it and rent it out for them, do all the paperwork, all the transactions, or they will want us to sell their Marriotts, and so they sign a listing agreement with us, and we list those also. And when there's finally a buyer, we do all the transactions for them.
Okay.
And you function as a traditional real estate agent, so you're paid a commission at closing. I believe that commission is 24%.
My job changes all the time, so it's yeah. So I don't want to say what it is because it might change tomorrow. But right now, my title is licensed assistant, but I'm the transaction coordinator. I'm the customer service person.
You get a hat of many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think typically because you're not selling a $300,000 home. If you're selling a 25, you guys have to pay the bills and buy the groceries. But when I brought up renting, Marriott and Sherida, when we were talking a few days ago with Jeremy, as Jeremy explained it, if I'm a Marriott owner, I can receive 20,000 points from someone else. But if you're a Marriott owner and you have 100,000 points, you could give 20,000 to Sherida, 20,000 to me, 20,000 to Kim, and charge me for what my equivalent maintenance fees, or if it's Aruba, more than that. Can both of you explain what you know about what Marriott allows with renting? Because I think it's very important to have the ability to rent.
Well, usually the owner will book a week, which we list. I have one customer where I'm doing all the booking and the listing. I'm not a fan of doing that because I don't personally like to go into their accounts, but that's how it works. They book the week and we will list it.
I think Marriott has an automatic, now you can, the owner can call and automatically transfer. Is that correct, Jeremy?
So there's kind of two different rental programs with Marriott, right? If you own a deeded week or you own points and you make a reservation, that's what Sherida is referring to here, right? You make a reservation, you rent that reservation out specifically. Yes. There's also websites out there that facilitate renting just the points, and those points get transferred to another Marriott owner. And then that Marriott owner that receives those points, that's the limit of 20,000 receiving, they can then go and make a reservation on their own in their own account with those points that they've received. So it's kind of two different markets here with Marriott points. Probably the bulk of them is essentially renting out a reservation, whether it's with their deeded week or with points, renting that out through sites like Red Week or Koala or the Timeshare market or Tug Marketplace. But then, like I said, people can rent out their points. There's a form online. So if I go out and say I have 4,000 points, I want to rent those to somebody. I find somebody to rent them. They send me some type of payment, and then I can go online on the Marriott Vacation Club owner's website, fill out a form. I need their owner number and their name. Fill out this form to transfer the points. They have to be a Marriott owner, obviously, and they have to own points or have access to the points program, and then those points get transferred into their account.
Well, and I understand when you rent, if you're renting Aruba or Newport Coast, you can actually make more than your maintenance fees.
Yeah.
But if you're renting out points, if I remember, you're lucky to make your maintenance fees. That's correct, isn't it,
Yeah, it
Sherida?
kind of depends on what you own. So a lot of people own points, right? The pure points trust points program or product. Those have a maintenance fee of about 79 cents a point. You probably can't rent them to cover your maintenance fees if you rent out the points. So in that case, you're probably better to find a reservation you can make with those points at like Aruba or Hilton Head or Newport Coast or Hawaii, and then rent out that reservation because you'll probably make back more than the cost. Whereas if you own a deeded week somewhere in Aruba where the maintenance fees are a little over $2,000 a year, or in Newport Coast where they're around $2,000, you can probably rent a prime week out and make maybe several hundred to several $1,000s in profit above and beyond what your maintenance fees are.
Now,
So it
and
all
you,
depends
you,
on what you own and what you're trying to rent. If you own in Orlando, you're kind of out of luck. You're not really going to make back your fees unless you can reserve something with the points and then rent that out separately.
have you, you own a number of timeshares. So do you typically stay in them, or have you tried
Yep.
renting?
No, we've rented from other owners. So I've had points that I've got from another owner transferred in to make a reservation, but usually it's just a few hundred points at most to kind of finish off a reservation that I'm making already. And I've rented from Wyndham owners in the past before we bought Club Wyndham, but we're not kind of active in the buying or renting our ownership. We use pretty much what we own.
Well, and
I don't think Wyndham will let you rent to anybody. They used to only let you rent to member or family. And
no, we have two. They have two rental programs, and we've had guests on. They have 600,000 points, which is a lot. They were sold additional points, told to rent, and given the platform to rent. Wyndham only allows two programs. One of them is called Vacation Share. And if you go to Vacation Share, it doesn't say that it's Wyndham, but if you go to book, the only choices are Wyndham properties. They also have extra holidays. So one of those programs, you have to go in and book it yourself, and then Wyndham will rent it. But the complaint is that if you give them enough points for a week, not only do they keep 40%, but there have been multiple complaints that they only rent 4 days and you lose the other 3 days. Now, who's to say that they are not pocketing those 3 days and going ahead and renting them out? So that's why.
And they also allow cancellations to almost the last minute. Like they have a pretty generous cancellation policy in extra vacation. So somebody who rented, they can cancel maybe only a week in advance. They get all their money back, and if that doesn't rent again within those week or two, you get nothing, right?
When I owned Wyndham, my neighbor used to rent it from me, and I would say she was my sister. So they got there, and they told them there was nothing for them, and it had been rented. I had done it myself in my name and said she was going to be the person going, and we had to fight, and they finally found a room for her. But they came all the way from New York and were told nope, we had to cancel that. So
well, and one thing I want to bring up is the confusion over Hilton Grand Vacations and Hilton Vacation Club that you mentioned, Jeremy. And Diamond has the most restrictive resale policy in the industry, which Red Week described as draconian. If I buy 20,000 points from you, in order to join the club to book at multiple locations, you have to buy 10,000 points from Diamond for about $40,000. And people are confusing the traditional before Diamond, Blue Green bought. You would buy a deeded week at, say, Tuscany or Alara, and there would be an accompanying 4,500 or 5,500 points. If you didn't want to stay at that particular week, you could stay anywhere. And people are confusing those. Hilton deeds have some resale value, okay? But the Diamond points, which used to be called Diamond US Collection, now it's called US Collection, and people are confusing the points. That Hilton points are not the same as Diamond points, even though Hilton's calling it Hilton Vacation Club.
And they have zero value. Like you can't even try to even give those Hilton Vacation Club points away.
No. Well, if you do, then you cannot join the club unless you buy 50% from someone else. So it's been.
You can only stay at a resort within the collection.
Yeah. So that's.
And really, if somebody's looking to purchase or acquire resale Diamond, my suggestion is go and find a deeded week, because they still have deeded weeks on the resale market, and use those through what they call DEX or Destination Exchange, kind of like Interval International or RCI, but you can exchange into other Hilton Vacation Club resorts through destination exchange. You
Well,
have
you
cheaper
have to-
maintenance fees because the maintenance fees on a deeded week are generally about 50% cheaper, or I guess I should say the points product, the trust, is about 50% more expensive than the equivalent number of points on a deeded week. So you're better to buy a deeded week and exchange week for week through destination exchange.
And to stay at Hilton properties, though, you do have to buy into Hilton, the Hilton Max program, HGV Max. But I have stayed in at the Summit in Sedona and the Cove in Ormond Beach, and those are Hilton rebranded properties. So the sales agents are trying to use scare tactics, saying that, you know, if you don't buy into HGV Max, you're going to lose locations, and that is absolutely not true.
That's
Or
right.
that your maintenance fees are going to skyrocket because you'll be the last. They just tweaked it. Like Monarch, they bought Monarch. If you don't give up your Monarch deed and buy diamond points, your heirs are going to be responsible, which is not true, or your maintenance fees are going to skyrocket. You'll be the last man standing. Now it's just been tweaked. If you don't buy into HGV Max, you're going to be the last man. So it's really confusing.
Yeah,
And
and they
Kim,
do that
I just,
intentionally too. They do that intentionally to confuse. I think they make the product confusing to be able to confuse the customer when they're at the sales table, when they're at that presentation, to confuse them and to kind of, in a way, trick them into buying something that they really don't need. There's no reason to upgrade, in my opinion. There's no reason to upgrade your timeshare ownership, because in most cases
Do
you're
you
making
think
steps
they're more
backwards.
deceptive than they are confusing? That they just
True, yeah.
mislead completely by spreading fear? And yeah, so I think that, you know, they're spreading fear in people's minds, trying to get them to buy something that really isn't, like you said, necessary. I wish that there was a spreadsheet somewhere that they would give people, and it would show this is when you really need to upgrade, you know. Like
Yeah,
if
every customer needs to upgrade. It doesn't matter who's sitting at that table. There's a reason they need to upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though they don't, they're
always.
not going to tell you don't need to. Every
I
customer needs to
know.
upgrade.
I know with us, it was, we started buying, wasn't Diamond at the time, back in 1995, that we wanted to eventually get up to platinum so that we could vacation for the winter in the warm weather. And we did get to platinum, and then we were oversold after that with a nice pencil pitch. Yeah.
well, and I want to mention before I see we only have a minute or two, that the problem with that feed was not on Jeremy's YouTube end, that was on our end. I had no problems watching your YouTube on
I watched
Destination.
it last night too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I want to thank everyone for showing up today and sticking through all of the troubles we were having. The other thing that happened was when the rains came in, it washed my cable out, so my internet is really insane, as well as a new computer again. But you know, people, the thing to do is just become educated. You know, take Jeremy's class, learn more. Try not to sign a contract while you're there. You know, they're going to do pressure sales, but the key is always, and this is one thing I'm learning, walk away. I've done that 10 times now. Somebody's trying to sell me something. I go, if it's here tomorrow, I'll buy it. And, you know, I'll go back and I'll see if it's there, you know, but right now I'm going to walk away. And it makes better sense. I don't think the price is going to change. I don't think it's going to go up, and I don't think you're going to get any better benefits. In fact, I think you're going to be very regretful with your purchase if you buy right away. I just do.
Yeah. I just
I
wish I had known more about what Jeremy was doing when I first bought. I was fine.
well,
But
you know,
later on, I wish I had known more.
I don't think what Jeremy
it's hard.
does. Yeah, I don't think what Jeremy teaches though helps everyone. I don't think it would have helped with the stuff I had. My stuff just didn't work. Even the app they gave.
Okay,
think-
it is.
It is. Oh my God. I just
Yeah.
love this conversation.
Yeah.
But anyway, everyone, thank you for watching us. We're going to keep up with that hearing, and just make sure you get more informed and contact Irene if you need any help. We had a bunch of those on the trip, didn't we?
Yes.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeremy. That was great.